Hello, everyone. Today we have Ruth Frances on the podcast. It is absolutely fabulous to have you on. Ruth is a fantastic presenter, a voiceover artist, and a life coach as well. And we're going to talk all about this a little bit later on. But before I do that, I haven't seen you for a very long time, Ruth. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. Do you know what? It's been quite a few years now, hasn't it? I'm doing fine. I think in spite of everything that's going on globally, it's been challenging at times. But today, right now, I'm feeling good and happy to be here with you.
Very good. Very good. Wonderful. I'm very happy to have you on as well. We're going to talk about everything that I mentioned previously very soon. Ruth has been presenting for so many years and doing voiceover, and I've seen lots of your work, and you are a fantastic presenter and voiceover artist. So much energy, and you're vibrant, and you really look like you care about what you're talking about, which isn't always the case when I watch presenters on TV. You are a brilliant, brilliant presenter.
I'm Ruth Frances, and this is Plant Oxford. There's a lot of people out there who are getting very excited on social media as well to know that we're back tonight.
Welcome on into the show.
Thank you, Bertie. Lovely
It's wonderful to have you here, Ruthie.
How is it? How do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy presenting? Because it looks like you do.
Yeah, do you know what? I think what you just said there, I hadn't really thought about that before, about caring about what I'm doing. Because I just do it. And I think it's just there as, part of who I am. If I choose to do something, then I'll do it. I'll do it with as much love and a passion as I can. Yeah. So that's really nice that you say that. That's really lovely. Thank you. I think there's the odd time that you do a job that you think, okay, I'm just doing this for the money right now.
Yeah.
But I think when you get on set or you get in front of the camera, or you get into a position where the job is happening, it's just about becoming really, really present in what you're doing. And for me, so how I think I find I try to be as authentic as possible. I probably wouldn't do something unless I actually really wanted to do it. Because I think it is obvious, maybe if it's sort of in the eyes perhaps, or just in the energy of the person and that you're watching on screen, if they're not really feeling it, or they don't feel like they believe in something that they're presenting about, perhaps that is a bit of a giveaway that there's just not that genuine connection. So yeah, I do. I love what I do.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. No, I mean, it's often in the eyes, and I think it's the same with acting as well. And if you see an actor on TV, I always look straight into the eyes, and I can tell whether they're invested in what they're doing. It's so important.
My boutique bathroom is the classic, and I love it. It's luxurious with a touch of gold. It's confident and glamorous.
Good. And how long have you been actually presenting for, Ruth?
It's quite a shock actually sometimes when I say this, and I hope it's because people think I'm younger than I am. I hope that's the reason. My first presenting gig was in 2001.
Okay.
So my god, it's 20 years ago.
20 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't carry straight on from there, because that was my first kind of foray into it, and I was sort of thrown in at the deep end a little bit, and it was really nerve-wracking. I'd actually sort of started to look into doing TV presenting. I wasn't quite sure how to do it. Didn't know where to start. And a friend of mine had worked at a radio station and said, oh, there's going to be a big party in the park gig happening in Bristol, I think it was. Okay. And the radio station that was, part of the whole kind of production needed somebody who could kind of be behind the scenes, just catching quick interviews with, music artists before going on stage, which for the first job ever, it was really, really intimidating, because these were like big artists of the time. I mean, I think it was one of the early gigs that the boy band Blue did. And
Blue.
They were quite cool back then. I mean, they were.
I shouldn't have admitted that.
And
but I do.
They had some good
love
songs
them
as well, didn't they?
Love them. Anyway.
And I sort of got thrust into this thing of, right, here's a microphone. And then this other person called Bill, who was around with a camera in the background, he was just going around getting all this like footage. He said to me, I've got no money to pay you, but would you mind doing some interviews on camera at the same time as for the radio? And I was just kind of like, oh my God, this is all a bit too much. It was just literally, one of those moments that you just think, I really have been dreaming about this, but now it's here. I don't know if I want to do it. It was really scary.
So you were sort of thrown into it then almost 20 years ago. And it's been,
I can't claim that it was totally through chance, because I actually was dating somebody at the time who was in a boy band. One of the rivals to Blue, I suppose. A1. I don't mind saying, because I'm actually really, really proud of where they are now, and they're doing really, really well, and they've all got different projects, and we're still really good mates 20 years later, which is really nice. And I think it was kind of knowing that, anything is possible. And before that, I don't think I'd really ever met people who had that belief. I've come from a really small town in North Yorkshire, beautiful, beautiful place to grow up. But, it wasn't really the place where you'd think it was going to be, possible to go onto a TV show or even a radio show. I didn't really ever see those kind of opportunities coming up where I, grew up. So when I moved to London, because I had a relationship that was, forming in London. And I thought, right, off I go. And in fact, I had actually already tried living in London a couple of years prior. And I'd moved down I was in retail management at that point, and I was really young. I mean, I was probably a little bit too young to have the responsibility that I had. And I'd taken this job, and it was in London, and it was in a beautiful little clothing boutique in South Molton Street, which, if you know London, that is a beautiful little street sort of connecting Bond Street to Oxford Street. And I mean, that was literally the most central part of London. And I just kind of started this job as a manager of this shop at the age of 20, going, oh my God, what am I doing? But I did make some really good mates, and I gave up after about a year because I thought, I just can't do it. It's too hard. I don't know anyone. London is the best city, but it's also quite lonely when you don't know anybody. And because I'm down without having already known anyone here, it was really intimidating. And I just sort of made some friends through the shop, which was really lovely, and stayed in touch with them. And a year later, I met the person that I ended up moving down south again for. And it was almost like fate in a way, because I think I tried it on my own, and it was like, yeah, London's really cool, but I'm really, not happy. And then to come back with a different kind of purpose, and I did get another job in retail, which, I actually did really enjoy it at the time, but I knew there was something inside of me that was a performer in some way, but I didn't really know, because I'd been a dancer, just like my brother Will. I'd been a dancer all my life, and then given that up because it was just not for me. I just couldn't handle the stage fright of going, and performing on stage.
What type of dance?
I just found it really overwhelming, and I wasn't very confident. So ballet and everything, really. Yeah, I loved it. And I also found it really, really terrifying. And I did forget my dance once on stage. And I think that was a trigger for me of, I can't do this. I can't perform. I can't be in front of an audience. Those were a lot of limiting beliefs that kind of formed from that. And I wasn't in I don't think at that point when I did that performance, I think I was 18. And so it was supposed to be this big, moment for me. I was the main part in the the dance show that we were putting on. I was Pocahontas, and I dyed my hair dark, and it was all long. And I was just like, this isn't, the star of the show. And I messed it up. But I wasn't really in a great emotional place outside of that. So I think that had a lot to do with it. And my confidence was literally, down to the most microscopic amount of confidence. I wouldn't have had even courage to speak to somebody, in the street. I was just like, really not in a great place. So I haven't always been able to do the sort of public speaking and the performing element. And, it hasn't come naturally. So I have had to work really hard on it, and also work really hard on myself, and self-development came a bit later. But, moving to London was a big step and a really great starting point to then have this kind of opportunity to do anything, because I do think London is like that. Whatever kind of work you want to do, whatever industry it is, it's a hub of everything. And I think for creatives, I think it's the best place in the world. And I'm probably a bit biased because obviously I've lived here for 21 years, but it is, in my opinion. You know, there's so much opportunity. There's, even if it's something that's a bit naff and a bit, you know, you're underpaid, you're not getting any exposure, there's still something that you can do in your chosen industry to get some experience, which can lead on to something else, and you can meet interesting people, and it can all sort of, you know, just branch out from there. So I think when I look back on everything that has happened to get me where I am now, it was almost like it was sort of orchestrated beautifully, but at the time it didn't feel like that, and it was, you know, quite a struggle at times. And it's not until you look back on it and you think, oh yes, if I hadn't have bumped into that person that day, and I hadn't have had the courage to speak to so and so, then they wouldn't have introduced me to that person who's got me to that job, and so it goes on.
Wow, there we go. Amazing. And so you have presented for car shows, you've presented, you've interviewed people on the red carpets, and you have, a lot of your presenting has been for QVC as well, which, for those that don't know, is a shopping channel essentially. So you go on, and Ruth will be there, and she'll be talking you through various products, their benefits, what they do. And I've seen these shows before. You have to talk so much, keep people engaged.
How are your cheeky bits?
Our cheeky bits are doing good. Those little apples, that's what we want to be focusing on.
How long have you actually been working for QVC for now?
Oh, I think I started there just doing the odd show here and there for a clothing company back in about 2006. And I then decided to go and travel to Australia, and I looked at doing makeup artistry at that point, because I was really, you know, keen. And my husband's a photographer who at the time was my boyfriend, so we actually did shoots together, and I really honed my skills in that department as well. And we did loads and loads of really great shoots, and I got so excited and passionate about makeup that when I returned to the UK, I was a bit more of a fit for the beauty department. And so that's where I've been working for the last 11, well, this will be my 11th year. Wow. And so I've got multiple brands that I work with, and that's how it tends to work there. You know, you really get invested in the brands that you work with, you get training, and again, I have found that the people I'm working with, I'm so passionate about what they do and the brands that they're, you know, what they're all about, that I don't find it a challenge to, you know, present for them. So yeah, it's been quite a long time now, but it's a freelance role. So this is the thing, it's wonderful because it gives me the freedom and the flexibility to do lots of different presenting work. I manage my diary, where I can, you know, slot different things in around my QVC shows.
Have there been challenges along the way as a presenter, working on a show that mainly you do your recording pretty late at night, or some of the time you could be recording at sort of 11 or even 12 at night? How do you get yourself prepared and get yourself motivated to be as animated as you are at that time of night? I would find that quite hard, I think, but maybe you.
I don't know. I think your performer in you would just kick in.
Maybe.
And it's actually live. So that's the thing. It's not even like we can record it and say, oh, let's do it again. It's live.
Right.
So I actually prefer live, believe it or not, because somehow in my brain, if I know that I'm live on TV, you don't make a mistake. I don't make a mistake when I'm live. Yeah. If I'm doing a recorded piece, sometimes because you know that you can do it again, I find, I mean, maybe it's just coincidence, but I find that sometimes I'll kind of just get right to the end and then make a mistake on one word and be like, damn it, oh well, we'll just do it again. Right. And there's just something really thrilling about live TV, that it's probably what people would describe as a form of meditation in a weird way, because you are so in that zone and only thinking about what you're doing in that moment. Whatever you've got going on in your life outside of that studio, whether it's, you know, personal stuff, work stuff, concerns about money, you know, family worries, anything, you can't think about that when you're on that TV show, because you are totally and utterly dependent on whatever comes out of your mouth to make sense, because it's live telly. So
is it improvised? Is a lot of it improvised then, or is there some sort of scripted structure in any way, or is completely improvised?
Yeah, there's no script. Wow. So we get a lot of training with our brands that we work for, so that's brilliant. You get to feel that you understand the products. Another colleague with you who is actually, working for the channel, and they're the main presenters. And then I come on, I'm a freelance guest presenter, so I come on and I do my little bit. And I'm having a chat with somebody about something that I really am passionate about. I want to get people excited about it because I'm excited about it. I don't think I could ever sell something that I didn't really think was great.
Yeah.
Or I didn't think, yeah.
Wow.
Do you know what I think is really interesting, Warren? You mentioned it. You touched upon my life coaching when you first
Yes,
introduced me, which we can talk about a little bit later. I think one of the biggest discoveries I made in my 20s was that I need to be authentic.
Designed to rival the likes of the BMW 5 Series and Mercedes E-Class. Since then, there's been little to separate the trio, all offering high levels of build quality, state-of-the-art technology, and strong driving dynamics.
In who I am in every possible way. And it wasn't just about communication in relationships. It wasn't just about, expressing what you need from somebody or something. Being authentic for me was literally genuine, just that authenticity that comes across when you're having a conversation with somebody and you are really believing in what you're talking about. That became a really important thing for me in my 20s when I did a lot of self-development work, and I was really, focused on getting to the root of why I wasn't happy at that time. And I think a lot of people go through it, especially performers who maybe get a lot of rejection. There's that element of needing to understand, I want to feel really good within my own self before I then go out there and expect to get the job I want, the partner I want, the home that I would love, the family, blah, 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 all of the stuff that would be important to you as a person. So authenticity is a really big thing. So I would hand on heart say that I haven't actually taken on a job, whether it's been for QVC or for, any other work that I've done as a presenter, since I discovered that authenticity was a really important value to me. I haven't actually taken anything on that hasn't felt right.
Okay.
I haven't just done it for the money. There's been parts of a job where there's been things that haven't felt great, like a lot of travel, being exhausted all the time, really crazy, start times, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's not the actual job that feels uncomfortable with those things. It's just the circumstances around them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can hand on heart say that the people who I work for and work with, I'm really invested in them and really really interested and really passionate about their products. And I don't think it wouldn't sit well with me to just do something for the sake of it.
Yeah. And you mentioned travel then as well. So a lot of the work you do is in London, but you also have, in the past, you've flown over to the US and worked for the American QVC as well. Whereabouts in America were you flying to?
So they're in a gorgeous little place called Westchester, Pennsylvania, and it's the closest airport is Philadelphia.
Okay.
So it was a full 8 hours to get there, and then just a little bit less than that coming home again with the Atlantic winds. So yeah, it was quite intense, I have to say. I loved it. I mean, the people that I met there have become lifelong friends, some of them. I really, truly do love my job. And I was working for a beautiful brand of cosmetics at the time. So, I was really invested and passionate about my products. The trickiest part of that experience was traveling on an 8-hour flight, going 5 hours behind your natural body clock, and then having to go on air over there at sort of 10, 11 o'clock at night when my body's thinking it's 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning or whatever it was.
It must have been so hard.
Yeah, so I did it, and you would never have known if you look at the footage. Obviously it was live, and then I've managed to watch back some of the videos and thought, gosh, you'd never know that I hadn't slept for however long, and I was kind of all energy from chocolate bars and cans of Coke and all that sort of thing. So it's not particularly good for your health on a prolonged period of time, but I did that for 2 years, every single month.
Wow.
And sometimes it was more than once in a month. So it was an amazing experience. And I think, I'll always treasure, like I say, the people that I've met there and the incredible experience. But it was amazing timing because I just felt like it was time for me to end that particular contract, partly because of the travel. Actually, it was a really big part of it. And I just wanted to be here. I wanted to be based in London. You know, I've obviously got QVC really close by for me. And I thought, I want to be here. I want to be at home. I want to be spending time with my husband. I want to be, you know, not missing out on family time back here in the UK. So I stopped in December 2019, and then look what happened in 2020 anyway. I would have been forced to stop. So
aside from QVC, you've also done a lot of presenting on red carpets. Have you met what sort of people have you worked with and interviewed and things like that?
And I'm here at the prestigious Royal Courts of Justice in central London for one of the most glamorous nights of the year.
The most exciting person I think I've ever met in terms of the sheer gigantic, overwhelming stardom that this person has was CHER.
Okay.
And the best part about it was I didn't know that I was going to be interviewing her. So I was on a red carpet and I was interviewing, it was for Attitude magazine, their awards that they do. And it was really amazing. It was such a glamorous, fabulous night. And I was interviewing really cool people, really interesting people, really inspirational people. It was great. And then right at the end of the night, there was the final award for Lifetime Achievement Award. Mm. And the organizer had sort of been buzzing around. You know, if you've ever been to a live event, you'll see a lot of people with headsets and clipboards. And they're the people who are probably the most stressed out people behind any huge, event at all. And they didn't know if CHER was going to turn up, if she was going to make it on time. I think there was a lot of kind of like, is she coming? Is she not coming? Are we going to have a live link? Is she actually, in the States right now? And then she did arrive. She came. And so I had about 5 minutes where they said, right, she's going to go on stage and collect her award. Can you be ready to interview her as soon as she comes off?
Oh, wow.
And, bearing in mind that when I was a teenager, I think she did that really cool film Mermaids and, that whole sort of in the 90s.
Yes.
Still really, quite a prominent figure in our kind of awareness. Yeah. But my mom, of course, adored CHER from back in the day, and she even had done her hair, like all that beautiful long dark hair. And I think my mom has got a similar bone structure. If she had all that surgery, she probably would look a bit like CHER anyway. But yeah, she did arrive. And
which do you prefer, presenting or doing voice work or voiceover work? Do you have a preference? Do you like them both the same?
Chic and easy. The Cointreau Fizz. Pour 50 ml of Cointreau over ice. Squeeze the juice of half a lime. Top up with soda water. The perfect summer cocktail. Cointreau. Please drink responsibly.
But there's nothing more fun, especially in the lockdown time. I've noticed that I've really enjoyed getting ready to do a TV show. Okay. So putting makeup on, getting your hair done, dressing up nice, because where else would I be doing that? There's nowhere else for us to go at the moment, and hasn't been for quite a long time. So that's been quite a nice thing in a way, and it's made me feel like, oh yeah, okay, that's what I look like with a bit of makeup on, a little bit of help here and there.
Yeah, it would be so easy just to do nothing right now and just sit there and just to not care about it. But I know what you mean. It is nice to dress up sometimes and make yourself look nice, and you feel better about yourself, and I think that's very important. Good. Alongside voicing, Ruth is also a life coach, which we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. When did that begin? Is that something that you've always wanted to do? Is that something that happened recently? And also, what sort of life coaching are you doing?
So my training was actually in 2009, and I was really drawn to everything that a life coach is. And I thought, oh, okay. But I think also because that whenever you go and train in something, you're actually learning quite a lot yourself that you can apply for yourself as well in your own life. And so I did my training in London, and it was obviously because it was around my work already. So it was a kind of part-time course. And then the people that were actually doing the course, I really invested in one of the women who was really inspiring. She was working with a lot of people who suffered with ME, because she herself had suffered with ME. And she was really out there sort of pioneering well-being and being able to work on emotional health as well as physical health, and, putting the two together. And so a couple of years after I'd done my initial life coach training, I was really like all set to kind of set up a business, but it is really challenging, you know, going into something new when you've got a career that's already established and it's there. And, you know, I think the hardest part for me was knowing that I would be, you know, offering this service to people who really needed it, but they maybe didn't know they needed it because they were perhaps in a really, you know, tricky place, and they wouldn't necessarily invest in themselves. So it was quite, at that point, I think I felt like I needed a marketing guru. I felt like I needed a PR expert and a social media expert. And I just didn't have all of those sort of tools to use at that time. So a couple of years later, I went to join this woman doing well-being coaching. So it was kind of a slight shift, same sort of principles, but looking at more of a sort of well-being approach with the coaching. And I was really, really into that. And that for me felt really good. And she was quite specifically working on women's empowerment as well, which I thought was really resonant for me. And so I'd sort of, you know, been quite involved in that in the early sort of 2011-ish, something around that kind of time. And I was assisting her on events and workshops and things. And then I thought, well, how can I combine my TV experience and what I've got to offer from that side of things? And I ended up coaching her on how to be a TV presenter or how to apply the skills to get her message out there, because she wanted to go on camera so that she could affect and help many more people across the world rather than just people that could come to her seminars here in the UK. And so then that was where it really sparked off something in me that made me think, okay, I can combine everything here. You know, I'm really passionate about well-being. I'm really passionate about health. I'm passionate about empowering people and again, finding your authenticity. But I'm also really passionate about media and, you know, how could I combine it all together? So that's where I sort of really have been kind of focusing, as and when people come and they want coaching in some way. It could be that somebody wants to be coached on how to be a TV presenter specifically. It could be that somebody wants to be coached on how to actually stand up in front of an audience and, you know, feel that they can present well, they can do public speaking well in their own work that might not be in front of a huge audience or a TV audience, but it's enough for them to feel that they need some coaching. And then from an empowerment and well-being perspective, there's been other clients that have sort of come along and said, oh yeah, but I'd really love to be able to do things that would require more confidence. And I feel that I can offer a bit of guidance. So it's not just coaching, it's kind of more sort of advice and consulting as well, sort of all rolled into one now. Wow. And I think, you know, I thought there'd be a lot more people over lockdown. Oh, sorry, I just kicked the camera. I thought there might be a lot more people over lockdown that would be, you know, keen to kind of be out there and look at ways that they can develop their skills more. But I think everyone's been so affected by, you know, by this financially, especially if they're self-employed people. You know, I think a lot of people who've maybe had jobs that have been furloughed, it's perhaps given them a chance to realize that maybe that's not what they want to do, because they've never had that time to actually sit there and say, okay, I'm getting paid something. I'm not doing the, you know, the commute and all the stress, and I'm not having to do, and I never want to go back to that. I've got a lot of friends who've got what I call normal jobs. And they are saying to me things like that, you know, I've never had time and space to think about what it is that I truly want, what makes my heart feel excited and, you know, gives my soul purpose and that kind of thing. So I think it's a really interesting shift that's going to be happening, where people are really going to be addressing their well-being a lot more. And you know, how their work life can really affect their health, their stress levels, their well-being, everything. Wow. So who knows what might come of it. I might end up having a few people that, you know, want to start doing a bit more work that, you know, I can help with. You know, tips and tricks. It's so cool
that you've been able to combine all of your skills and actually put it towards something which is so worthwhile and helping other people getting through what has been a very challenging time for a lot of us. How has 2020 been for yourself as a creator in the industry? Has it had an impact on you? Have you managed to navigate yourself around that? Yeah, what's been the story for you?
Sadly, it has had an impact in the sense that I have really got hardly any other work except QVC shopping channel work, which is amazing. And I'm so grateful, because not only has it been brilliant for me as a person working in this industry, but also for customers as well, who maybe haven't been able to have access to what they've wanted to purchase. So that's been really great. Yeah. everything else that I'd done up until that point from a freelance perspective has completely come to a standstill. So although I'm, super, super grateful to have had work, it has completely, all my other work's kind of dropped off. But what's been really interesting is having the voiceover side of things. I think people have really, clients and, companies have started to realize that actually there's other ways that they can then use artists like ourselves who've got, voiceover set up at home. And I have got a little mini studio. So, well, it's not really a studio, it's an area. We make do with what we can.
I know. I'm sure yours is more impressive than mine, but anyway, let's move on.
But that's been brilliant. That's been really, really amazing to have that as something to offer clients. So in a weird way, although it's been challenging, it has in fact opened up, different ways to diversify using your skills. And I wouldn't have perhaps purchased the equipment to do a home studio if I hadn't have had lockdown happen, because it made me really address it and think, what can I do with my skills? I need to be able to transfer them. I need to be able to diversify what I can do as a performer. So yeah, it's not been an easy year, and I've got other friends of mine, my husband included, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying, who found it really hard. Creatives who are self-employed, freelancers, who've maybe got companies, limited companies, they've not had the government support. They've kind of been a bank of people that have just been forgotten about. And that's really tough, because our government, I know, have been amazing here in the UK at sort of supporting people like myself who are self-employed, but there's been a big chunk of people in the creative industry who've been forgotten about a little bit. And, I've got really talented friends of mine who've ended up having to go back to entry-level jobs, working, just doing a manual job when they're actually top theatre producers, and they've worked for the last 20 years on that as a career. And although, I'm really impressed with how they've been able to go, right, what I've got to do? I've got to make some money. I'll just get out there and I'll do what I need to do. And it's amazing. Not everybody's got that get up and go for a start. And it can be really stressful and really overwhelming for, the mental pressures. But at the same time, you've got to do what you've got to do. And I think, hopefully now we can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But it's I think this entertainment industry has been affected really, really badly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, let's hope that it is going to get better. It seems like we are slowly moving in the right direction, but there's still a little bit of a way to go yet. Okay, so Ruth, moving on from that, I would love to know two life achievements, two things that you have been super proud of. It doesn't have to be work related. It could be that you went traveling somewhere, or you experienced a particular type of food, or whatever it is, something super interesting that you will always look back on and say, I'm so glad that happened in my life. It would be lovely to hear.
Oh, okay. That's quite a good question, actually, to make me think. I think, do you know what? There is, going back to the kind of traveling element, in 2009, I decided to put a pause button on all of my TV presenting at that time. I was quite overworked, doing lots of late nights. It was for an entertainment show. It was a roulette show. So that was really intense, because a lot of the shows were till 3 a.m. live. And I just got burnt out, I think, after about 5 years of doing that. And my boyfriend, who is now my husband, Alex, was quite sort of open to exploring a little bit. And we decided to go to Australia because we had some friends over there. And I'd always wanted to go, I think, from being really little, watching Neighbours and Home and Away. I always thought, that's so cheesy, isn't it? I always thought, don't they look like they've got an amazing lifestyle over there? They're always sunny and...
The whole of Australia is like Neighbours, yeah.
I mean, I discovered when I got there that it's not what you think. Even if you've got the beautiful beaches and everything, if you haven't got work, doesn't matter where you are, you can't pay to live. So anyway, that's another part of the story. But I think the best sort of achievement for me was actually having the courage to leave what was considered to be that kind of safety net and my comfort zone, if you like, And I challenged myself to be uncomfortable by upping sticks and selling everything. I mean, we didn't own a home, but I owned everything, like my car, my clothes, furniture. We sold everything up. And we went over to Australia. We did have some friends to stay with, so I can't deny that, that really helped, because I think if we'd had to go and stay in a hostel, maybe I would have struggled a little bit more with, being in a dormitory with people. But yeah, it was good. And getting over there, it was just that feeling of total letting go. So that was a big achievement. That was huge for me, because I've always been somebody who's been quite kind of, I must make sure that I've got enough money to pay my bills, and I must make sure that I've got this career path I'm looking at, and I can see where I'm going. And it was just a need in my heart and soul to say, I need to have a change. I need to do something different.
Yeah, I think it's so important as well, isn't it? It's so important to experience something completely different, live a different life, see a different culture, and it opens your mind to other ways of living. And I think it's very healthy for the soul and also for the mind as well. Where in Australia did you go to?
So we moved to Sydney initially, and then we went to Melbourne. We had another set of friends in Melbourne who very kindly put us up, and there was a really cool scene there for creatives in Melbourne. And my husband, who then my boyfriend, he was a photographer, really kind of starting to get his kind of skills honed, should we say. And so for him, it was fantastic. He had the most amazing experience. He was getting loads of work. He was actually modeling as well, which was brilliant. And for me, everything just stopped. And it was a real surprise, because I even had a couple of contacts who I'd stayed in touch with, who'd worked here in the UK. And it was on a TV show called Nuts TV, which was based loosely on the Lads magazine. And I was probably the most dressed female on set, wearing jeans, I might add, and a top. It was never the typical what you think of when you think of Nuts magazine, but it was a really fun show, and I was a car expert on there. So I'd sort of gone on, and I'd had this great connection, and the main sort of head guy there, I'd tracked him down, and he was Australian, and he'd gone back to live in Australia again a couple of years later. So I'd sort of kept in touch with him, and he said, when you come over, let's get you in for a screen test, let's see where you are, and we'll look at how we can get you out there networking. And then the recession had just hit Australia when we'd arrived in 2010, and so all the media budgets were kind of like, whoa, let's just cut back. So the financial crisis had happened, and it was such a shock, because I'd sort of gone there thinking, I'm going to have everything all set up, and that is not what was in store for me. But that was what, in a way, was the best learning. That was the best achievement sense, because it forced me to, after about 6-7 months, assess this and say, hang on a second, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be earning loads of money, living in a beach house overlooking Bondi, or we actually fell in love with a little beach called Tamarama, which was amazing. And that's in my head, and that's what we thought. It is never what you think it's going to be, though, is it? In life, you kind of get to somewhere, and then you realize, that's not what the universe had in store for me. But the learnings from it and the experience from it was absolutely brilliant. And it did really make me realize that although I'd love to live by the sea, and that is something that maybe I'll end up doing here in the UK at some point, that is not enough when you're far away from your family. It takes more than 24 hours realistically to get door to door to get.
It's a long way,
And it was like home from home in a weird way, but then lots of other things reminded you that it wasn't like home, like the size of the huntsman spiders and things like that. And you suddenly go, I don't know, you might not want to bite me and kill me, but you're definitely not.
You just reminded me. We went to Australia.
Bedroom.
We went to Australia, but not so long ago, actually, and we rented a place. This was in Sydney also, and we were just chilling at home. The kids were down watching a bit of TV, and then this giant spider just crawled across the living room. And Frida, my wife, for those that don't know, had an absolute fit. And she was like, "Oh, what's that? What's going on? Oh my God, we're gonna die!" And then she was like Googling, all these different spiders and what it could possibly be. And it was, and we turned out to be a huntsman, which, as some people will know, is generally a pretty harmless spider, but it looks quite scary.
Oh, well, they have legs that are almost like hairy.
Yeah,
you know, they are
it could be
literally
a tarantula, or it could have been,
Yeah.
I mean, we had no idea, but yeah. Anyway, you just reminded me of that experience when you mentioned that. It was a very
But
funny
it makes
thing.
me laugh when I see little spiders here in the UK, though, because I don't get freaked out by them at all now. And I just
No.
want to help them get out. So I get a little
Yeah.
glass and I go, bye-bye now. And I let them out at the back door. And I would
Yeah.
never have done that before.
Spiders in,
I think when you've
spiders in
seen the size of
Australia.
them, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
they're another breed altogether. They're scary. Some of them are pretty scary. Anyway, right, we're going to move on, Ruth, and we're going to play a little game, which I am
Oh,
very excited about.
okay.
Would you rather? I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Don't
Okay.
give it too much thought. The first thing that pops into your head.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go? You look slightly anxious, but it will be okay.
I have no idea what you're going to ask me, but I'll do what you say and go with it. Yeah.
All right. Okay, here we go. So would you rather be able to see 10 minutes into your own future or 10 minutes into the future of anyone but yourself?
Anyone but myself, I think. Yeah.
Okay, very good, very good.
Because I know what I'm going to be doing in 10 minutes. We're in lockdown.
Yeah, that question would have been better if you weren't in lockdown. Okay, good. Would you rather have an easy job working for someone else or work for yourself, but work incredibly hard?
The second option, because that's kind of what I've chosen to do. So I'm going to stand by it.
You're a hard worker. You're a hard worker. I like it. All right. So number 3, would you rather be the first person to explore a planet or be the inventor of a drug that cures a deadly disease?
The inventor of a drug that cures a deadly disease.
Good. Would you rather go back to age 5 with everything you know now? So you're young, you're 5, but you know everything that you've learned over the years, or know now what your future self will learn. So basically, look into the future and know everything that's going to come, but you are the age you are now.
I have to say the future.
Yeah, I'm going to have to reword that whole question because that was a mouthful.
A bit confusing, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit confusing. All right, moving on. The last question, number 5. Would you rather have unlimited international first-class tickets or never have to pay for food at restaurants?
Oh, that's so good. I think the food.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because you know what I've realised, and I know you don't want me to go on about it, but it's because it's the last question.
I do.
I'll elaborate a bit. Having done quite a lot of traveling myself, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love exploring new places. I loved it when we had the freedom to do that. And obviously, you know, it's made us all appreciate a lot more, hasn't it? This last year where you haven't been able to go to the places that you'd like to go and all those dream destinations. And so I hope that will change. But I really love food. I really do. And I think there's some amazing places that if you didn't have to pay for it, you could go and have the best restaurant. Yeah. I'll probably be slightly not fitting in my trousers anymore because I would be eating out at these places that I didn't have to pay for all the time. But yeah, I do really love my food, and I love kind of experiencing lovely, beautiful restaurants as well. And hopefully I could take my hubby with me.
Yes, absolutely.
In this scenario that you've just conjured up.
Yeah, why not take him with you? Yeah. Good. All right, so we're going to finish up very soon, Ruth, and it's been lovely having you on, and you're a very interesting person to listen to, and we would love to know Ruth Frances's final thoughts for the podcast, something nice and uplifting for our audience, approaches on life, dealing with negative and positive change, that sort of thing.
Oh, well, I think, without sort of repeating myself, if you feel that you're not being true to who you really are and what you really truly believe, that's when you need to make a change. And I think it's knowing when to do that, noticing noticing when something feels like it's just not quite right. And, you know, I think when I first started looking into trusting what feels good and your intuition on things, it was on silly things like, you know, I'd look back and say, oh, if only I'd listened to my gut instinct. Because you know how people talk about your gut, don't they? And they say, oh, yeah, I felt it in my gut. I knew it wasn't right. And I should have listened to my gut. And I think that can, that expression can apply to anywhere that you feel it in your body. If something isn't right and you just get that feeling, whether it's a job or a relationship or, a choice to do something different or whatever it might be, when you feel that it's just not sitting right with me, have a little moment and stop and actually check in with yourself and really kind of look at how, maybe this isn't right and there isn't an alternative to look at. I think just being true to yourself, that is my biggest thing that I've learned in my own experience for myself. But I think I would give that as advice to others, rather than listening to other people and what everybody else's opinions are and what other people think you should be doing, and society and social media is a big one, be true to yourself. And that would be
true to yourself. I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much for today, Ruth. It's been awesome. And I hope that you have a lovely day. And thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's been really nice chatting.
Thank you, Ruth.
Good. Well, thank you for having me. Take care.
Of course, it doesn't miss out on any of those really key Range Rover design elements either though. Those wraparound lights, the honeycomb grille or the clamshell bonnet all let other drivers know you mean business. The steering is also well weighted and inspires confidence in the corners. In fact, it's probably the best car to drive in its class. That's right, we're here at Plant Oxford, home of one of the most iconic cars in Britain, the Mini. Ever since Volkswagen took over, it's gone from strength to strength, becoming one of the most successful brands of reliable, well-made family cars on the continent.
Proof that downsizing doesn't have to mean taking a step backwards with quality or refinement. Check out the Volkswagen Polo. The thing is though, for all those familiar features, this is a Mini like no other. Never before has there been a 5-door version of the Mini hatchback, and there are many subtle ways that this model is different to a regular Mini. But best of all is this MMI infotainment system, which almost silently arises from the dashboard. Very cool and brilliantly functional. Jaguar prides the E-Pace on its performance credentials, so it's pleasing to see such a driver-orientated cabin. Its well-proportioned looks are backed up with decent ground clearance that's more than enough to see every Tiguan cope well with muddy tracks and snow-covered roads. The diesel engines also return good fuel economy, particularly the 2 lower-powered units, and would be a great option for company car users and those covering high mileages annually. The beauty about doing a road trip like this is you get to test their car out on all of the windy, picturesque coastal roads. I mean, check out the view. The only thing that seems to be missing is a little bit more sun. You can take the girl out of the UK, but the weather seems to follow.